back to that time. How did that feel? You had this huge accomplishment, right? You wanted
Mhm.
to be
Yeah.
a nurse for a while and you accomplished this, you achieved this milestone. Were you excited to head down this path? Were you like, dreading the payments? Like
Mhm.
how did that feel?
Yeah, I can remember a couple things. One, at the school I went to, I chose to go there because I really believed I was gonna walk on and make the soccer team. And I have a whole tragic, fun story I can tell you another day, but it didn't work out. And my dad, after the first year, was like, maybe you should transfer out of here. You might think about going somewhere else a little less expensive. And I was like, no, no, no. Everybody's paying back nursing loans. That's what they're all telling me. Like, it's fine. Hospitals will pay me. And so, just didn't listen to him. So I graduate, and the second part of this I really remember is, my dad was a pastor, so like money wasn't his background, but he knew a little about Dave Ramsey. So he sits me down and he's like, "Hey, I just want to talk to you about your payments and stuff, and let's sit down and figure this out." And he was really, I could tell he was really worried about me. And so we sit down and it's like that conversation is when the weight of it hit me, and that was very shortly after I passed my nursing board. So I was on a high, and then it's just like boom, the low. And I start looking, and we
Great
figure out
dad,
like,
bring
yeah.
me down to
I know.
reality.
God,
God.
thanks, dad. But I'm appreciative because it was like, oh my gosh, and I remember thinking this thought in my head: what did I do to myself? What did I just do to my future? Right. I mean, it was like, and then of course, a little bit of a victim mentality of like, why was I allowed to make this decision? Like, I was only 18, come on. Like, and there's no takesy backsies, like, come on. And, and so, but I remember just sitting there, like the weight of that really was heavy. And then and he and I are doing the maths. Like, I was only making 35,000 a year to start. And I'm like, how does this, like, these numbers don't add up? Like, what? I mean, what am I going to do with my future? Who's going to want to marry me with this kind of debt? Luckily I did find somebody, but that's another story. So yeah, it was definitely heavy. I went from excited to like, oh my gosh, and it's a weight, honestly, I lived under for years, and I developed a scarcity mindset because of it. And that took me a long time to get out of.
So what did you do? Did you so you had that conversation, you were faced with this reality, you couldn't
Mhm.
back out of it, no takesy backsies. And so you had this career you were starting out in. What was your plan? Did you do the math and did you know how many years it would take to pay it off, or did you have a plan to pay it off early?
Yeah, I went. So I'll be honest with the audience. I'm not a huge Dave Ramsey guy anymore, but I went the Dave Ramsey route.
Okay.
And so I did the whole gazelle thing. I was very aggressive. The thing that's frustrating that nobody really tells you about is once you do that and you pay that off, it's like, well, now what? I literally have nothing. Um, and so it was like, and I don't know how to build. He doesn't really touch on that because his things that he says, don't mean to rail on him here, but they don't really aren't really true wealth building tactics. The numbers he gives you don't really line up and add up. So for me, the plan I used was I did the Dave Ramsey gazelle. I'm appreciative of that because it did that really is what kickstarted my financial journey and what got me to say, like, what are other people doing? What are wealthy people doing? And that really created a thirst for knowledge on finances for me, because I was like, I am not okay with this being my future forever.
Yeah.
And so, and I mean, I hate to admit this to the audience. I even coupon clipped. I was a couponer for a little bit. I was
Uh-huh.
in a I
Uh-huh.
was in a I was in a patient's room, and this mom was watching like extreme couponers or something, and it was like night shift. It's like 5 minutes later, and I'm standing there just like staring at the screen watching her. And I was like, people do this? And she's like, yeah, they do. And I was like, how? And so, of course, I start Googling. There's another nurse who does it, and I become this crazy couponer. I had like 20 toothbrushes that I didn't need, so, so you can see there was some scarcity for me there. But that was my kind of plan, was initially Dave Ramsey. I evolved from there, but that's where I started.
Tell us about what did you get involved in real estate? What area? Because as we all know, there's a million different things in real estate that folks can do, which I love so much because you can hop into the world of real estate and then being like, oh, well, maybe notes is for me, or maybe mobile home parks is for me, or maybe flipping homes is for me. Like, there's so
Yeah.
many
Oh
different
yeah.
ways to make money in real estate. It's so fun. In the beginning, it's like walking into Disneyland. It's like, which ride do I want to ride today? You
Yeah.
know? So tell us about that.
Yeah, I would say it can be overwhelming too at
Hmm.
first.
Yeah.
And that's so I remember reading an article from Bigger Pockets, and it was like, before you decide or how you decide, look at all these areas, and it had a whole list, and it was like, read up on each one and decide. And I remember getting to mobile homes and laughing, and I was like, nobody is making any money off of mobile homes. Do people still live in these? I don't even see these anymore anywhere. I was like, no way. So of course, what happens is I end up like on the dark web at like 2 a.m. reading about mobile homes, and I'm like gone way down the rabbit hole. And my wife Kate's like, are you coming to bed? I was like, just a second. I think I've figured out a hack about mobile homes, and so I find, and this is where it's like a couple of things came into play. So I ended up choosing mobile homes. I found a coach. Really, I always had done well in athletics with coaching, but I hadn't really ever done it in like professional life. I did it with day trading, and that guy, he actually changed my life kind of personally more than with investing, and just kind of opened my eyes to some things about gratitude and meditation and all of these things I wasn't doing. I had a lot of success with that, and because of him, I was open to like, okay, there might be someone who knows more about me with mobile homes, and maybe I could learn from. And so I found a mentor and I paid him and started doing that. But the other reason I chose mobile homes, looking back, is still I was still a little bit in that scarcity fear mindset. I had just come out of the $150,000 of student loan debt in my mind. And I didn't understand leverage, and I didn't understand banking, and I didn't, and so for me, the idea of, apartments or single family homes and a mortgage that I was gonna have all this debt, I just didn't understand it really. And so I had fear. So I thought, okay, mobile homes, I can buy it for $500 or less. And that can come out of my pocket. It's low risk, because I'm still kind of risk averse. And so that's really, so I started that, and there's not really anybody providing financing for mobile homes. So it's actually not crazy competitive to get into once you get your name out there. And like, I was a month in and found my first deal, and so that's how I got to mobile homes, I'd say.